Hey, what's up guys, you good Gypsy, and I'm back here today with my week 2 game in DPL, and this week we're going to be facing off against the High Jump Keks. We're going to be facing off against John W, who is a really strong draft player and a guy I haven't actually faced yet in the format. Probably one of the few top players that I haven't played yet. So yeah, it's definitely a high one. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this game. We actually teamed together last season on the Young Goaters. He was my captain last season, and he went undefeated in the regular season, only losing in playoffs, losing his game in playoffs. So yeah, definitely a strong player, and certainly the HJK's strongest player on their team. He actually went for over 50k, which is crazy in the auction. So yeah, definitely certainly a strong player, and he's got a really interesting team. Mega Gallade plus Taunty with a lot of fat on his team. Originally, when I was prepping for this build, the doc showed that he had no ground on his team, and he had an Abra. So yeah, I think they got penalized for messing up one of the drafts pre week 1, and so they got penalized in week 1 by having an incomplete draft and Abra, throwing on an unmodern Abra in the last slot. But I had to kind of change my draft for this after I realized that this wasn't actually the draft he'd be using. He actually had a ground in Steelix, which is a really sturdy kind of check to Zero Aura if it's packing a Troppleberry. And he also had Whimsicott on his team, as opposed to Florges, which certainly changed up Gallade's effectiveness here. So yeah, it's definitely, nonetheless, I do think I've got the tools to win here. Zero Aura is a massive threat to his team. Even if he does bring Steelix, it's something that I can chip down with knockoff, wear it down to put in range of Z, close combat, and I can also pressure it with the rest of my team. So yeah, I'm definitely looking at Zero Aura as the win con. John actually opted not to bring Steelix, and mainly that was because Steelix granted such free turns to mons like Swampert, Celebi, and Celesteela, so I can understand why he didn't bring it. He certainly has other ways of playing around Zero Aura with Rotom Heat if they can keep that thing healthy. Usually to an extent, maybe a really bulky Gallade, but yeah, Zero definitely looks like a threat to his team. Certainly can win if I can position it correctly, but yeah, his Torn is a menace for my team. I do have Florges and the Selly, so if he wants to run Z Heatwave, then he's going to have a hard time breaking down my Florges. He's really going to need Taunt for that. Z Hurricane is also an option that he could consider. The Z Heatwave also hits my Zero, so I kind of think he's going to go with that. His Gallade is a massive threat to my team, but apart from that, I think I can handle the rest of it. So I'm bringing a pretty interesting team. Kicking it off with Scarf Swampert, a really solid Revenger for his Gallade. If he's around 50, it can catch an offensive Taunt with the HP investment that I'm expecting after Rocks with Stone Edge. It can catch stuff like Coon with Toxic on the switch. Pretty unconventional Scarfer, but honestly a mon that can kind of surprise him. It's also useful for pivoting into a faster Rotom Heat and bopping out with Waterfall after being immune to the Revolt switch, which was something I was expecting, potentially him having Hidden Power Grass as well, because yeah, Swampert is otherwise such a solid stop to his Rotom on his team. So weakening my Swampert would be important for his Muck as well, if he does intend on winning with that in the late game. So yeah, Swampert can potentially catch either his Rotom, his Gallade, or his Taunt off guard, and yeah, might open up the path for the rest of my team. So then I have a pretty offensive Carmined Cabia Florges, really nice win con as well. If I can set up a Carmined, if I can weaken Muck, this thing can actually take on 1v1 his whole team. With a Carmined up, I'm able to comfortably check stuff like Rotom. Coon I take on, I'm offensive as well in this. I do have a lot of defense, so I can take +2 Poison Jab with ease from Gallade, but yeah, this Florges is kind of a nice win con. If he were to bring Steelix, I actually am HP Water on this, so I'm Carmine Synth 2 attacks, and Hidden Power Water does a ton even to spit F Steelix, because Florges is pretty strong actually as far as fairies go, and it does also give me a nice way of hitting the Rotom Heat. So kind of like a defensive pivot on my team, as well as being an offensive win conditional breaker in itself. Then we have Zero, the star of the show, really just massive threat to his team. I am Bulk Up, Plasma Fist, Knockoff, and Close Combat. Knockoff is really critical. I'm expecting the Taunt lead, as it leads amazingly versus my Rockers. It also leads well versus my Mega and Gallade, which is a pretty big threat to his team. And if I just get Zera in early, and that is going to be my dedicated lead here, Knock is pretty safe. Knock's pretty free. It invites in both Rotom and Uxie, which don't appreciate losing their items. If he's left his Rotom and he loses his item to Knock turn 1 from Zera, that's pretty massive, honestly, for the rest of my team. So especially for Zera being able to take that thing on later in the game. So yeah, Knock pretty important. Could have gone with Sub, Bulk Up, CC, Plasma Fist, but the utility that Knock had with the potential for him to bring something like Chople Steelix was pretty big here, I felt. Then I've got a very bulky offensive Gallade. I'm actually adamant with the Shadow Sneak and quite a lot of bulk. I think I'm only creeping like max speed Taunt or something like that on this. And I am actually I'm Knock, Edge, Shadow Sneak and CC, so I'm 4 attacks. Edge is really nice in case he wants to use Z-Taunt as a pivot into Gallade expecting knockoff, or X-Scissor, which could be used to catch Uxie. It also catches him switching Taunt aggressively in on a turn that he expects me to SD to catch a weakened Uxie on the switch, or to capitalize on that kind of switch. And if I can kind of remove Taunt, that really opens up the rest of my team, like Celebi, Florges, even Celesteela if he's Z, Taunt, open up incredibly if I can lure that thing. And honestly, I do see Taunt being a potential way of him switching into Gallade, because not many people use sort of Edge on Gallade. It's very uncommon. It's much more common than people run like CC Zen plus some sort of SD and then Knock or X-Scissor to catch the Psychics. And just that 4 attacks with the Adamant Nature blows back, makes HP Taunt after rocks. And although I'm actually just expecting like 88 HP on his Taunt, he's going to want the offense versus my team for if he is Z, and the speed is pretty critical for Gallade. So then I have a pretty interesting Celebi. I'm Tangerberry for the potential offensive Carmine Coon, which I viewed as quite a big threat to my team. It is definitely annoying, though I do have like Carmine, Florges, and Zera. It's if he's sub CM, Signal Beam, Surf, or Scald with like enough speed for stuff like a slower Celebi, it could be a threat. I'm creeping max speed Coon on this Celebi, which also creeps potentially creeps like a slower Adamant Gallade as well. I'm T-Wave, Healing Wish, Rocks, and Grass Knot on this set. Pretty obviously warped by Taunt, but it can throw out a T-Wave on that thing, and it can get momentum versus Rotom with Healing Wish in the late game if I really need to. Healing Wish will be pretty clutch for bringing back something like my Zera or my Gallade, and will allow me to play more recklessly with those in the early game if I feel like I need to. And then lastly, I have a bulky but pretty offensive Selly. I'm Okka with 3 attacks. I think I'm Okka Autonomized actually. Seed Bomb, Heavy Slam, and Edge. Edge again, just catching the Rotom, one of his main sort of checks to my Zera Aura, as well as catching a Taunt who wants to come in on a potential grass move aimed at Coon, or come in on a Leech Seed or something like that. So yeah, pretty comprehensive breakdown of the squad, but this was a good match and I put a lot of time into the team. So we're going to jump into it. John is going to lead with Taunt as I kind of expected earlier, and that really works out for me well, as I do lead with my Zera. Zera was just a pretty nice lead versus anything. If he led Uxie, I just harded into my Celebi and got up rocks turn 1, but he's going to lead Taunt, and this gives me the knockoff turn 1 as he does go into his Rotom. And this thing reveals to be fairly bulky, as he does have the lefties, so it's good information turn 1. I'm just going to switch out into my Florges here, as he does choose to just go for the Toxic. So this is interesting. Toxic, wasn't expecting Toxic, but of course that does work versus like a bulk up non-sub, like a bulk or like a Carmine non-sub Zera, whilst also catching my Swampert, so I can understand that. I'm just going to fire off the Moonblast here, as nothing wants to switch into this offensive Moonblast. That's definitely a specially defensive mark from that damage, though I didn't really know that at this point. He was either like offensive Assault Vest or especially defensive like Gluttony, and that kind of damage implies that he definitely does have a lot of bulk on his mark. So I'm going to switch out here, going to go into my Gallade, as he does just go for the knockoff. Knockoff was his play, caught my Selly if it wanted to come in, as well as my Swampert, so we kind of take advantage of that. I'm going to fire off the Edge here. The reason I fire off Edge is his yeah, like I said, his Taunt lives +1 Zen. Obviously it takes +1 CC. It takes every hit nicely except Edge or T-Punch, but T-Punch is kind of a bad bring here, in my opinion. And you know, he may want to save his Uxie as a secondary countermeasure to my Zera now that his Rotom has lost its lefties and has been chipped. So that was my thinking here. It would have been massive for me. And if he does reveal to be leftovers Uxie, after the edge damage, he will be in range of a knockoff anyway. So I'm just going to go for the edge. And it does a nice 39% to Uxie, and that's big damage. So he doesn't reveal to have the item, to have lefties, so he's probably Colbur. He could be Rocky Helmet, but I'm expecting Colbur, honestly. And Glade is going to get bopped if I stay in here with Foul Play, or he's going to get T-Wave. So yeah, not going to get greedy here. Just going to go to Celebi and use this to get my rocks up, as he does just fire off the Foul Play here. So I'm just going to throw up rocks here as he does get the slow U-turn out into his Taunt, popping my Tango Berry, and that was something I was okay with happening. I was okay with losing my Tango Berry because now with rocks, if I can pressure his Coon with rocks, I should be able to take it on with my Zera and my Florges. But he's going to go into his Taunt. I'm just going to T-Wave this thing because this thing parried means Gallade really has such a little counterplay on his team. So gonna throw out a T-Wave here as he does just stay in and defog. So he could be running, he could just be focusing on like defog without running rocks on his own Uxie, which makes sense because his team is pretty weak to rocks, and my team doesn't care about rocks that much. So he may just be running like defog no hazards, but his Uxie could also be carrying rocks. We don't know at this stage. So gonna throw my rocks back up as he makes the play into Rotom and reveals double defog. So this further kind of reinforces my belief that he is just double defog and no rocks potentially, with his Uxie having something like T-Wave or some sort of status Foul Play U-turn plus something else at this stage. So it could still be rocks though. So this turn I am just going to click bulk up as he does just go for the overheat, and we take that nicely. This is a really bulky Zeraora. Like, I'm like max HP with quite a lot of Spit F and defense. I'm running quite a lot with enough offense to kill stuff like Gallade at +2, I think. I can set up alongside Gallade if he's like SD or like bulk up and come out of that exchange on top, just due to outspeeding it. And really the bulk was going to be really useful against stuff like Torn and his Mark as well. So yeah, we get to +1/+1 here as he does fire off the overheat, and right here I'm just going to fire off the Z move. This was a long turn. There was a lot of time spent on both sides, but we are going to fire off the Z move, putting Rotom in range of rocks as well as any hit from my Selly and my Florges, really any hit from anything on my team. So that's really nice. I'd rather blow the Z here and then waste it versus anything else. It would be nice for the Muck potentially getting like a stronger hit off than Plasma Fist. The Plasma Fist does quite a lot, but getting that big hit off on Rotom really just opens up the path for Zera later if I can heal it up. He's going to fire off the Toxic here, and that's going to put my Zera on a timer, which would mean really bad news for Zera if I didn't have Healing Witch on Celebi. So that's a nice play on his part. But his Rotom's down, so that's one Defogger down, and that's one Zera check out of the way. So he's going to go into his Uxie here. I'm not going to sack off Zera to anything. It's not going to die to Uxie comfortably lives +1 Plasma if he's defensive, and Knock isn't going to kill anyway, and he's probably Colbur. So if not, he's just going to, like, if he lives, he's going to kill me with Foul Play, and if he's Helmet, then I die to recoil from Helmet plus Toxic. So yeah, it's never the play to stay in here. I'm just going to go hard out into my Purd here, as he does actually go for the Heal Bell. And this is really interesting. This is last move Heal Bell on his Uxie, and this gets rid of the power on Torn. So this is a really smart bring by John. That instantly opens up Torn to be a threat once again to Gallade. If he didn't have Heal Bell, like, Gallade was looking amazing in the same game. Really, like, any more chip on Uxie and it died to knock off from Gallade. So, you know, switching into a CC, it would die to knock off the following turn. So that Heal Bell was really brilliant prep, and a nice way of getting it off there. So this turn I'm just going to stay in and go for a Toxic. Unfortunately I do miss. Could potentially matter, might not. But the fact that I reveal Toxic and he dodges, it inclines him to stay in here with Taunt, as I am just going to get off the Scarf Toxic here, as he does go for the Taunt. So that, like, I don't think that the miss necessarily, like, sort of led to him staying in here and clicking Taunt, but yeah, getting the Toxic off on Uxie there would have been nice, but it's not the end of the world. Getting the Toxic off on Torn is pretty nice because it means my Florges can more easily synth stall. Though I'm better off, honestly, just firing off Moonblast versus Tim at this point. But he's not going to be able to switch in as safely, especially if I can get rocks back up with my Celebi. So yeah, I'm gonna switch out here into Selly as he does just go for the knockoff. I want to preserve my Scarf on Swampert if I can. And right here I am just going to fire off the Stone Edge, I believe, as he does go out into his muck. Stone Edge obviously would have dealt a lot of damage to Torn, but it also would have caught his Suicune for more than Heavy Slam did. So he's going to recycle up, and I'm just going to continue spamming Heavy Slam here, wanting to keep his muck low and forcing him to attack or switch out to his Coon, which he does do here. He's going to reveal the sub, implying at least like sub CM Coon. He could be 2 attacks. He ends up being sub protect, so he's sub protect, potentially Calm Mind Scald. I found out later that he's actually sub protect Calm Mind Ice Beam, so he's mono Ice Beam versus the team. So the fact that he toxiced Florges because I'm not Heal Bell, he would have been able to sort of wear that thing down eventually. But Silly will be able to take that kind of Coon on comfortably, just spamming Seed Bomb here. So he's going to go into his Uxie and eat that Seed Bomb nicely and fire for T-Wave here as I just go for the Heavy Slam, wanting to chip this thing down into a range where Zera can take it out later in the game. I don't have to deal with taking a foul play or anything from that Uxie. I can just hit it with any attack and it'll go down. He reveals to be Rocky Helmet, so this is interesting. This kind of tells me that earlier in the game, when my Gallade was at +1 and he was at like 61%, I'm pretty sure Uxie would have died to knock off from Adamant Gallade at that point, but nonetheless, he bluffed the Colbert well, and that really is paying dividends here because we do take a nice chunk from that helmet. But yeah, this turn I'm going to go hard out into my Uxie now. I view this opportunity. I view this as an opportunity to get off a Healing Wish versus this Uxie. This was a point where he could have just stayed in and foul played my Selly, wanting to get more damage off on it, putting it further and further in range of something from Coon or from Gallade, and forcing me to take another round of Helmet if I clicked Heavy Slam. But he actually goes for the U-turn here, and this is going to put Celebi at a really low amount. So that was a nice play by John, putting me in range of rocks, not that he has rocks, and getting his Gallade in here, which is a massive threat, as he's just going to go for the Shadow Sneak here. And now he's going to knock me out with close combat, as Silly is going to go down, and this Gallade's inside. But I do have a Florges in the back, and like I mentioned, this thing is pretty defensive. Like, I'm modest, but I got a lot of defense. I do have the Kibia Berry, so it can live a Poison Jab, which I think is like a pretty decent bring versus a team with Celebi and Florges. I think P-Jab makes a lot of sense. But yeah, he's not going to lose his Gallade here. He's going to switch out, which is a smart play, into his Torn. Now this was a really interesting turn. So I'm gonna go back one because this really impressed me. This play from John. So I'm in with Selly. I sack off Selly to the Gallade, and I bring in my Florges in versus his Gallade. So at this point, Gallade's pivotal for him. Gallade's really important. It's his best way of taking on my Gallade with Shadow Sneak. He's revealed that now, so I know that's something he's got up his sleeve. He knows that my Zera is weakened, and I think after like a couple more rounds of Toxic, it'll be in range of Shadow Sneak, especially if he's Adamant. And that kind of, like, the fact that he has Sneak kind of tells me he's Adamant like me. Like, we both sort of had the same idea with Gallade, which is interesting. But yeah, this was an interesting turn. I expect John to want to preserve his Gallade. I think Gallade is very important for him. It's pretty vital here in winning, in my opinion, from his side. I wouldn't bring Florges in unless I could kill Gallade and unless I could tank a hit. He knows that, I know that. What I expect here from him is more than likely to either go into Muck to take on Florges and get back his Berry after being able to tank 2 Moonblasts, or to go into his Uxie to suicide his Uxie to get in something like Muck and start recycling up, which versus my team now looks pretty scary if he can get a recycle up and start cursing. What I don't expect is him going Torn on my Moonblast, and that's actually the play he makes. So I expect him to either go into Muck, Uxie, or his Coon, all of which kind of deal with Florges Coon to an extent because it can protect, Calm Mind up, start wearing me down with Toxic and firing off Ice Beams. So I'm going to take this opportunity to go into my Selly. I need to get my Celebi in, and I need to get the Healing Wish off, and this is an opportunity I see to kind of make that happen, because Zera at this point, Zera just wins. Zera gets in, it clicks a bulk up, and it wins. So he doesn't know I have Healing Wish, and I don't know if he knows at this stage what I'm trying to do, but the next play kind of suggests to me that he does realize what I'm trying to do as he goes hard Torn. Now, it turns out he didn't know It turns out he didn't realize that I had Healing Wish. He kind of blanked on that during the game, but at this stage I'm thinking, wow, that was a really impressive play. He identified the fact that I was trying to get my Celebi in, and he went Taunt, knowing he could live at least one Moonblast, obviously, because it's Taunt. And U-turn. Oh, he didn't have U-turn, I don't think, on his set, but he could at least taunt my Florges. So really impressed by that play. And it certainly worked for him. It forces me into a spot where I've got to switch again and get Celebi in later on and try that again, making an aggressive switch into Celebi to get the Healing Wish off. So he's going to knock here, as I do just Moonblast, as he is going to go hard into his Muck. And now I'm thinking, alright, okay, so his Muck's in. Now this is interesting because John could certainly just recycle up, especially if he doesn't realize that I'm Healing Wish on Celebi. He's got no reason not to recycle here. Like, recycle is his play. But if he realizes what I'm trying to do and doesn't want to grant me a free Celebi, then his option is to attack. Like, he's going to want to attack trying to catch my Celebi. But on the other hand, if I stay in with Florges and just sack it to the Muck, I get Celebi in it anyway, and I can get the Healing Wish off. So this was a really interesting part of the game, and me assuming that John knew what I was doing kind of influenced how I'm going to play here. So I'm going to stay in turn 1 and click Moonblast. If he recycles up this turn, fair play on his part. I've still got another turn to make the choice. If he kills my Florges, expecting my Celebi to come in, I can then Healing Wish into Zera and win. He recycles up here, so I'm like, okay. So if he recycles up here, so he's got his berry back. I'm gonna click Moonblast once again. It catches a switch that he could make, but it also catches him getting greedy and going for another recycle. But he actually stays in and click Gunk Shot, and this is perfect because this is what I wanted. I wanted him to kill Florges so I could get Celebi in, and that is what happens. He is gonna kill Florges, and I am gonna get the Celebi in. And I think at this point he realizes, oh shit, like. Actually, no. Yeah, we spoke about it after the game. I think at that point he thought I was trying to get rocks up. Like, I was trying to suicide Celebi off to get rocks up to put, Taunt in range, to put everything in range of Zera. But I revealed the Healing Wish, and I don't think he saw that coming. Well, I know he didn't see it coming because we spoke about it, but he certainly did a great job of pressuring my Celebi not to come in freely and get the Healing Wish off, regardless of whether he thought I was trying to get rocks or get the Healing Wish off. He did a really good job in pressuring Celebi, and that certainly forced me to make some aggressive plays there with Florges, as Zera is going to come back in. And this turn I'm just going to click Bulk Up, as we do outspeed the Taunt, obviously, and he's going to Taunt here. So Taunt, people were thinking this was a bad play on John's part, but it made sense because if he attacks with Taunt, there's not much damage he can do to me, honestly, and I can just continue to Bulk Up at least once or twice more, and ensure that I kill everything in one hit. So this turn I am just going to go for the Plasma Fist, as he does bring in his Uxie, and he's going to obviously drop to that. I'm going to take Helmet, but because I am so bulky and I'm at +1/+1, I can comfortably take on this Gallade. He's going to be adamant, but his close combat is still going to do not all that much, considering it's a Gallade. That close combat did 60. Into his Shadow Sneak, he is not going to be able to take me out. And Zera is going to clean up this game. His Suicon's going to come in, and obviously he can't Pippi stall. Plasma Fist has quite a lot of HP for such a strong move. Kind of interesting. But yeah, this was a really fun game to play. I think it was really well played by John. Ultimately, Celebi and Zera were just really nice in this game. And certainly kind of changed my opinion on Zera after having used it myself. I kind of used to sleep on this mon, but I think it's got a ton of potential, and I think multiple people have kind of proved that already in the format. But yeah, really definitely enjoyed using this thing. I'll be looking to pick it up at some point in another tour, another league. But yeah, good game to John. That was one of the most enjoyable games certainly that I've played in draft. I think he played it brilliantly on his end. I think Zera was a pretty big threat, but like breaking him down early, breaking down his checks to Zera, and just having that Healing Wish in the back was just really clutch. But yeah, hats off to John. Great game. He obviously we teamed last season, hoping to team again at some point in DPL. But that's gonna be it. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this week of the Draft Premier League. I know this one was kind of more in depth. There was more elements to this game, so I wanted to kind of go in depth, and yeah, hopefully I didn't miss anything in the analysis of it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time for week 3.